I said no to the family trip. My sister always sticks me with her twins. I walked off at the airport. The next morning, I had hundreds of messages saying, "You ruined our vacation." Imagine being labeled the villain of your own family vacation, simply for protecting the one you love most. That's exactly where I, Harper, found myself, battling my own sister, Chloe, all because I dared to stand up for our mother's fragile health. It still burns, that accusation. You ruined our vacation. At 29, I'd always been the responsible one, navigating the unspoken currents of our Connecticut home. But the words, "you ruined our vacation," hurled at me by my 33-year-old sister, Chloe, shattered any illusion of peace, echoing in the quiet chambers of our lakeside cabin in Maine. This trip, meant to be a serene escape for my mother, Eleanor, became a battleground, and I was somehow the enemy for caring too much. Growing up, the dynamic was clear. Chloe, for years my senior, was the golden child. Our parents, Eleanor and Arthur, were utterly charmed by her vivacious personality. And honestly, who could blame them? Chloe lights up every room she enters, making friends at the grocery store checkout. My father, Arthur, especially adored her, always laughing at her jokes, prioritizing her needs. I, on the other hand, was the steady anchor. While Chloe was winning swim meets and homecoming queen, I was in the kitchen with Mom, ironing Dad's shirts, and quietly maintaining a 3.8 GPA that rarely got a shout-out. It wasn't that my parents didn't love me, they did. But I was the reliable one, the one who didn't cause trouble, who didn't need attention. As we stumbled into adulthood, those roles only cemented. Chloe meandered through 3 college majors before settling on communications, each transition fully funded by our parents without a single complaint. After graduation, she decided to find herself in Europe for a year, and again, Mom and Dad opened their wallets. Meanwhile, I worked part-time through college, earned my accounting degree, and immediately landed a respectable position in Hartford. My achievements were met with quiet nods, not parades. The last 2 years had been particularly tough. Mom's health, specifically her type 2 diabetes, had steadily worsened. Daily medications, constant blood sugar monitoring, and doctor visits when things went sideways. Dad tried, bless his heart, but the medical complexities overwhelmed him. So, naturally, that responsibility fell to me. I researched, organized her meds, and drove her to appointments. Chloe would call occasionally, her concern genuine but fleeting, always shifting the conversation back to her latest dating drama or work conflict in Boston. The idea for this Maine vacation? That came from Chloe. 3 months ago, during a rare family dinner, Mom was having a rough health patch. "What we all need is a change of scenery to reset," Chloe declared, her eyes sparkling. "Let's rent that cabin in Maine, the one the Millers went to. It's right on the lake, totally peaceful. Mom could rest, Dad could fish, and we could all just relax together for once." The idea took hold like wildfire. Dad nodded enthusiastically. Mom's eyes, dulled for so long, actually lit up. "That sounds wonderful," she murmured, reaching for Chloe's hand. "I've been feeling so cooped up lately." I hesitated. Summer was crazy at my firm. A week off meant double time before and after. And Mom's health, medical facilities nearby, accessible cabin? But seeing Mom's hopeful face, I swallowed my concerns. "Great, it's settled," Chloe announced, already on her phone. "I'll look into booking it next week." Next week turned into never. The actual planning, of course, became my burden. Chloe sent links but never booked. Dad talked fishing but never researched permits. Mom was excited but tired quickly. So I took over. Lists. Booking. Researching nearest hospitals and pharmacies. Planning meals that accommodated Mom's diet. Arranging my time off work, which was a nightmare. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, Chloe called, pure panic in her voice. "Harper, I totally forgot to request vacation days. Can you call the cabin and see if we can move the trip back a week?" My grip tightened on the phone. "Chloe, that's impossible. Everything is set." I had to fight for this time off. Mom's doctor appointments are scheduled around these dates. "But I really want to come," she whined. "Can't you figure something out?" After a tense conversation, she finally agreed to make it work by taking unpaid time off, making it sound like a monumental sacrifice, a guilt trip I almost bought into. The night before departure, I methodically packed my suitcase, then a separate bag just for Mom's labeled medications. Printed maps, hospital locations, pharmacies, restaurants with diabetic-friendly options. I was exhausted, but hopeful. Maybe this trip would bridge the gaps in our family. Maybe Dad would finally see my contributions. Maybe Chloe would step up. With those naive hopes, I drifted to sleep, dreaming of serene lake views and harmonious meals. Little did I know, the reality would be dramatically, devastatingly different. This vacation would shatter my perceptions of my family and of myself. My alarm blared at 5:30 a.m. We planned to leave by 8 o'clock for the 6-hour drive to Maine. I splashed cold water on my face, the lingering fatigue from restless planning clinging to me. By 6:15, Mom's medication bag was double-checked, each bottle clearly labeled, the schedule I'd painstakingly created for travel time adjustments in a bright red, impossible-to-miss folder. At 7 o'clock, I loaded my car and drove to my parents' house, where we'd transfer everything to Dad's SUV. Mom, already in her comfortable travel clothes, hugged me. "Morning, sweetheart." Too excited to sleep. Diabetes meant she was always cold, even in summer. Dad was in the kitchen, engrossed in a fishing magazine, nursing his second coffee. "Morning, Harper," he grunted, barely looking up. "Ready for vacation mode?" I smiled, then started organizing the cooler with drinks and snacks, all sugar-free options for Mom. 7:30, no sign of Chloe. Dad's watch-checking grew more frequent as 8 o'clock approached. At 8:15, he finally called her. I could hear Chloe's voice, bright and unapologetic, through the phone. "Oh, I'm just finishing packing. Give me 30 minutes, tops." Dad sighed, but didn't protest. "All right, we'll wait. Drive safe." I bit my tongue, holding back the obvious. Chloe lived 15 minutes away. There was no reason for this. Instead, I rear-reviewed our route and checked chargers for phones and Mom's glucose monitor. Chloe finally breezed in at 9:10, designer sunglasses perched on her head, an oversized tote, and her suitcase. "Sorry, everyone. Couldn't decide what to bring, and then I needed coffee." She held up a takeout cup. Dad, without a word, loaded her bags, rearranging everything I'd carefully packed to accommodate her excessive luggage. Mom just smiled indulgently. By 9:30, we were finally on the road, an hour and a half behind schedule. Chloe immediately claimed the front passenger seat. "I get carsick in the back," she announced, leaving me to sit with Mom. I didn't mind. It meant I could keep a closer eye on her. The drive north was beautiful, suburban sprawl giving way to forests. Dad played classic rock. Chloe chattered animatedly about her friends and work drama. I gazed out the window, allowing a sliver of relaxation. Around noon, we stopped at a charming retro diner. Mom checked her blood sugar. "The grilled chicken salad should be good for you, Mom," I suggested, light on the dressing. Chloe rolled her eyes. "God, Harper, let Mom eat what she wants for once. We're on vacation." "It's fine," Mom interjected quickly. "The salad sounds perfect." When the food arrived, Chloe immediately complained about her burger. I asked for medium rare, and this is definitely medium well. She pouted, poking it. The server was summoned, a replacement ordered, delaying us another 15 minutes. Mom looked tired, her face a touch pale. "Did you take your noon medication?" I asked quietly. She nodded. "Just a little tired from sitting so long." "I'll be fine." After lunch, Chloe dozed in the front. I kept Mom company, playing word games. The scenery grew spectacular as we drove deeper into Maine. We crossed the state line in the mid-afternoon, and I felt a fresh wave of anticipation. Despite the delays, the vacation still held promise. Around 4:30 p.m., Dad turned onto a narrow road winding through pines. After miles of increasingly remote terrain, we rounded a bend, and there it was, the cabin. More beautiful than the photos. Perched on a gentle slope overlooking a vast, clear lake, log walls, a wraparound deck, massive windows reflecting the water's shimmer. Tall pines provided privacy. A small dock of a rowboat tied alongside. Oh my, Mom breathed, her fatigue momentarily forgotten. It's perfect. Even Chloe sat up, phone forgotten for the first time in hours. Wow. The Millers weren't exaggerating. This place is gorgeous. Dad parked. We stretched. The air smelled of pine and clean water, significantly cooler. For a moment, we stood in silence, broken only by birdsong and lapping water. A fleeting moment of family unity. I felt a surge of optimism. Maybe this was what we needed. I took charge of unloading, directing Dad and Chloe while I organized our supplies. The interior was just as impressive: knotty pine, comfortable furniture, a stone fireplace, a kitchen opening to a dining area with lake views. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I call the room with the lake view, Chloe announced instantly. Dad nodded. Your mother and I will take the master. Harper, you're okay with the small room in the back, right? It wasn't a question. I nodded, carrying my bag to the smallest room overlooking the driveway. Adequate. Cozy. I unpacked quickly, then set up Mom's medication station on the kitchen counter: pills, glucose monitor, schedule. By early evening, we were settled. Dad figured out the gas grill. Simple dinner: grilled chicken and veggies. As the sun set, the lake turned molten gold, then deep purple. This was a wonderful idea, Mom said, squeezing Chloe's hand. Thank you for suggesting it. Chloe beamed, accepting the credit without a whisper of my weeks of planning. But in that peaceful moment, I didn't care. The vacation was off to a good start, despite the hiccups. As stars emerged, I allowed myself to hope for the family connection I craved. I woke with the sunrise, my body still on work schedule. Soft morning light filtered through the curtains. I lay still, listening: gentle creaks, distant birdsong, the barely perceptible lapping of water. By 7 a.m., I was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, breakfast underway. Whole grain pancakes, fresh berries, Mom's favorite, and diet-friendly if she limited syrup. Mom joined me around 7:30, looking rested, more energetic than in weeks. Something smells wonderful, she said, accepting the coffee. You didn't have to go to all this trouble. No trouble, I replied truthfully. Cooking in this beautiful space, with the lake sparkling outside, was calming. Did you sleep well? Better than I have in months, she admitted. Something about the air here. Dad appeared, dressed in fishing clothes, eager for the lake. These pancakes for everyone, Harper? I nodded. I thought we'd eat together before heading out. I found a beginner-friendly hiking path that loops around the lake, about 2 hours. Perfect before it gets too hot. Sounds great, Dad agreed. I noticed fishing gear in the boat. Thought I might try my luck after the hike. We discussed this, agreeing to meet for breakfast at 8 o'clock, leave by 9 o'clock. But as 8:30 approached, still no Chloe. Mom set aside her plate. Dad checked his watch. Should I go wake her? I asked. Dad shook his head. Let her sleep. She works hard. I bit back my retort. We all work hard. Instead, I cleaned the kitchen, wrapping Chloe's portion. At 9:15, with no Chloe, Dad's impatience grew. Maybe we should just head out. She can catch up. Mom looked torn. She'll be disappointed to miss the hike. Let's wait a little longer. We compromised, preparing for the hike: water bottles, sunscreen, trail map, the small first aid kit I'd packed. By 10 o'clock, the morning coolness was giving way to summer heat. Just as we were about to leave, Chloe emerged, yawning and stretching in pajamas. Morning, everyone, she said casually, as if we hadn't been waiting 2 hours. We were about to leave for the hike, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. Chloe blinked. Oh, right. The hike. Sorry, I completely forgot. Give me 15 minutes. 15 minutes stretched to 30. Chloe showered, changed, and finally joined us, her hair perfectly styled despite the upcoming physical activity. By then, it was nearly 10:45, and the temperature had soared. We'll need to shorten the route, I said, studying the map. It's too hot for the full loop, especially for Mom. Chloe frowned. But I wanted to see the lookout point from the guidebook. We can try again tomorrow if we start on time, I suggested, avoiding her gaze. The abbreviated hike was still pleasant, winding through fragrant pines, offering stunning lake views. Mom moved slowly but steadily. I stayed close, watching for fatigue. Dad and Chloe ranged ahead, her bright laughter punctuating their conversation. Halfway through, Mom's pace slowed further, her breathing labored. "Let's take a break," I suggested, guiding her to a fallen log. She sank down gratefully. "Just need to catch my breath. It's been a while since I've done this much walking." I handed her water, discreetly checking for other symptoms. Flushed, but not alarmingly so. "How do you feel otherwise? Any dizziness?" "I'm fine, Harper," she assured me, drinking eagerly. "Just out of shape. Don't worry so much." Dad and Chloe had doubled back. "Everything okay?" Dad asked, his brow furrowed. "Just taking a short rest," Mom replied, before I could speak. "Enjoying the scenery." The rest of the hike was slower, with more breaks. By the time we returned, it was past noon, genuinely hot. Mom went to lie down, insisting she was just tired. I checked her blood sugar, slightly elevated, but not dangerous. Dad went fishing. Chloe announced she was sunbathing. I used the time to prepare a light lunch and plan tomorrow's activities with more realistic timing. Around 2 p.m., we gathered for lunch on the deck. Mom looked refreshed after her nap, the morning's tension seemingly dissipated. Dad proudly showed off pictures of a small bass he'd caught and released. "I thought we could try that seafood restaurant in town for dinner," I suggested. "The reviews are great, and they have plenty of options for Mom's diet." "Actually," Chloe interjected, "I met some people while sunbathing. Local guys with a boat, they know all the best spots. They recommended a different place, the Lobster Trap. Best seafood for miles." "Did you check if they have menu options for diabetics?" I asked. Chloe rolled her eyes. "Not. Everything has to revolve around dietary restrictions, Harper. I'm sure they have salads or something." Dad, predictably, sided with Chloe. "The Lobster Trap sounds great. Good to get recommendations from locals." I let it go, making a mental note to check the menu online. Mom caught my eye, giving a small shrug that said, "It's not worth arguing." After lunch, Chloe disappeared to freshen up, emerging an hour later in a new outfit, makeup redone. "By the way," she announced casually, "I might not join you all tomorrow for the lighthouse tour. The guys I met invited me out on their boat." "But we planned this together," Mom said, disappointment in her voice. "I was looking forward to all of us seeing the lighthouse." "I know, Mom, but how often do I get to go boating with cute local guys? You understand, right?" Chloe's tone was wheedling, the same one she'd used successfully throughout childhood. "I guess so," Mom conceded. "Just be careful with strangers, honey." I couldn't stay quiet. "Chloe, we came here for a family vacation. We've only been here one day, and you're already making separate plans." "Don't be so controlling, Harper," Chloe snapped. "Just because you have no social life doesn't mean I have to be glued to the family 24/7. "That's enough," Dad intervened, but his tone was milder than if I had spoken to Chloe that way. "Chloe can spend one day doing her own thing. We'll still have plenty of family time." The exchange left a sour taste. As we prepared for dinner, I saw Chloe texting rapidly, a small smile playing on her lips. She was already mentally checked out of family time, and our vacation had barely begun. The Lobster Trap was a tourist trap, long waits, limited menu. Mom struggled, finally settling for a plain grilled fish that was dry and overcooked. Chloe dominated dinner conversation with stories about Boston, barely asking about anyone else. Dad encouraged her, laughing at her anecdotes. Mom smiled tiredly, picking at her food. I sat quietly, observing the familiar family dynamics, Chloe at the center, Dad facilitating her spotlight, Mom peacekeeping, me on the periphery. I'd hoped the change of scenery would shift these patterns, but so far it was only reinforcing them. Back at the cabin, Chloe announced she was going for a moonlight walk. "Don't wait up," she called, phone in hand. I suspected she was meeting her new friends. Dad turned on the TV. Mom settled beside him with a book. I retreated to my small bedroom, lying awake, listening to the unfamiliar night sounds, wondering if I was the only one who felt the tension beneath our supposed vacation idyll. The third morning dawned bright and clear. I woke early again, checking the forecast, perfect conditions for the boat trip I'd reserved weeks ago. A 3-hour cruise, minimal exertion for Mom, allowing her to experience the lake's beauty. I headed to the kitchen, stopping briefly by Mom and Dad's closed door. Still sleeping, good. I started coffee, then mixed batter for blueberry muffins, Mom's favorite. As the muffins baked, filling the cabin with sweet aroma, I realized Chloe's room was also quiet. Given yesterday, I wasn't surprised. Our boat tour was scheduled for 11 a.m., plenty of time for breakfast and the short drive to the marina. Mom and Dad emerged around 8:30, drawn by the smells. Mom looked well-rested, her color good. I discreetly watched her check her blood sugar and take her morning medication. "These muffins are wonderful, Harper," she said, selecting one. "You're spoiling us." Dad poured coffee, peering out at the lake. "Perfect day for boating. What time do we need to leave?" "We should head out by 10:15 to be safe," I replied. "Marina's 20 minutes away, and they ask us to arrive 15 minutes before departure." Dad nodded. "I'll make sure Chloe's up by 9:30. We enjoyed a pleasant breakfast on the deck, watching kayakers. At 9:30, Dad knocked on Chloe's door. No answer. He knocked louder, then cautiously opened it. "She's not here," he said, returning to the deck, confused. "Doesn't look slept in." A flicker of concern crossed Mom's face. "Do you think she's okay? Should we call her?" "I'm sure she's fine," Dad said, though he immediately pulled out his phone. After several rings, it went to voicemail. He left a message reminding her about the boat tour. By 10 o'clock, still no Chloe. Her absence created a nervous atmosphere. Dad tried calling again, same result. "Maybe she stayed with those friends she met," he suggested, though he looked uncomfortable. Mom's worry was more visible. "She should have let us know." "That's not like her." I refrained from pointing out that it was exactly like Chloe. Instead, I packed a small cooler with water and snacks for the trip. As 10:15, our planned departure time, approached, I noticed something else troubling. "Dad, where are the car keys? We should get going." Dad patted his pockets, frowned. "They should be on the hook by the door." A quick search confirmed my suspicion. The keys were gone. And so was the car. Chloe had taken it. Without asking. Without a note. Without considering we might need it. Dad's expression darkened. "She knows we have the boat tour today. Why would she take the car without saying anything?" The situation grew more concerning when Mom opened the refrigerator and frowned. "Harper, didn't you put my backup insulin in here? I can't find it." A quick inventory revealed the problem. Her emergency insulin, meant to be in the fridge door, clearly labeled, was gone. Most of her daily meds were on the counter, but the emergency supply was missing. With a sinking feeling, I realized it had to be in the small cooler bag I'd packed for emergencies, the same bag now in the trunk of our missing car. "I need to call Chloe again," Dad said, his voice tight with anger. This time, he left a more urgent message. "Chloe, call us immediately. Mom's insulin is in the car and we need it. Plus, we're going to miss our boat reservation." The next hour was tense. We called repeatedly, each going to voicemail. Mom insisted she was fine for now, having taken her morning dose. But the missing emergency insulin was a safety concern we couldn't ignore. At 10:45, I made a decision. I canceled the boat tour. The marina was too far to walk, especially in the growing heat. We couldn't risk missing the boat and losing our deposit. The cancellation fee was substantial, but there was no alternative. "I'm sorry about the tour, Mom," I said, seeing her disappointment. "Maybe we can reschedule." Mom patted my hand. "It's not your fault, dear. I'm more concerned about Chloe. This isn't responsible behavior." Dad paced the deck, alternating between calling Chloe and staring down the road. His mood swung between worry and anger. "When she gets back, we're going to have a serious conversation about consideration for others," he muttered. My primary concern was Mom's medication. While not in immediate danger, having her emergency supplies inaccessible was unacceptable. After some research, I found a small pharmacy in town, 2 miles away. A temporary emergency prescription might be possible. "I'm going to see about getting to town," I announced. "We need backup insulin." Dad looked ready to object, to suggest waiting longer for Chloe, but Mom nodded firmly. "That's a good idea, Harper. Better safe than sorry." I found a water taxi service online. The cost was more than I wanted to spend, but this was about Mom's health. 20 minutes and a phone call later, a small motorboat pulled up to our dock. Need a lift to town, folks? Ray, a weathered local man, called out. I helped Mom into the boat, explaining the situation to Ray. He was sympathetic, offering to wait while we visited the pharmacy. The boat ride to town was beautiful, despite the circumstances. Ray pointed out landmarks and loons. At the pharmacy, I explained everything. The pharmacist was understanding. Mom had her medical information on her phone, which helped. They couldn't provide a full replacement, but they gave us enough emergency insulin for the rest of our vacation. The cost was high without our regular insurance, but I paid without hesitation. Ray waited as promised, ferrying us back to the cabin. As we approached the dock, I felt a mix of relief and simmering frustration. We returned to the cabin around 2:30 p.m. The car was still missing. No Chloe. Mom looked tired from the outing, so I helped her to the couch. Dad resumed his anxious pacing and phone calls. Finally, at nearly 4 p.m., we heard tires on gravel. Through the window, I saw our car pull up with Chloe at the wheel. She emerged, looking relaxed and happy, wearing a new sundress, carrying shopping bags. Dad met her at the door. Where have you been? He demanded, his voice tight. We've been calling you for hours. Chloe looked genuinely surprised. My phone died, and I forgot my charger. Did you need something? Did we need something? I interjected, unable to contain myself. We had a boat tour scheduled for today, the one we've been planning for weeks. You took the car without telling anyone, with Mom's insulin in it. Chloe's expression shifted from surprise to defensive irritation. How was I supposed to know her insulin was in the car? And I thought the boat thing was tomorrow. Even if it was tomorrow, you don't take our only vehicle without letting anyone know, Dad said. We were worried about you, and we needed the car. Mom joined us, moving slowly from the couch. Honey, my emergency medication was in the cooler in the trunk. We didn't know where you were or when you'd be back. For a brief moment, Chloe looked contrite. I'm sorry about the insulin, Mom. I didn't know. Then her expression brightened. But look what I found in town. She held up her shopping bags. The cutest boutique. I bought you a handmade scarf, Mom. The swift change of subject was classic Chloe. Deflect, distract, charm her way out of accountability. Usually it worked, especially with Dad. But this time, the issue was too serious to gloss over with gifts. Chloe, I said firmly, we had to hire a water taxi to get to town for emergency medication. We lost our deposit on the boat tour. This isn't about forgetting or your phone dying. It's about basic consideration for others, especially Mom's health needs. You're overreacting, as usual. Chloe snapped. Mom is fine. Nothing happened. And I said I was sorry about the insulin, but how was I supposed to know it was in the car? You should have asked before taking our only transportation, I insisted, or left a note, or made sure your phone was charged. Any of those would have been the responsible thing to do. Dad stepped between us, his mediator role firmly in place. All right, that's enough. What's done is done. Chloe, please be more thoughtful in the future. Harper, let's move past this. We still have most of the day ahead of us. I noticed he'd barely chastised Chloe while asking me to drop the subject. The familiar pattern stung, especially given the seriousness. Mom, ever the peacemaker, suggested a late lunch on the deck. The meal was strained. Chloe chattered about her shopping and the charming local men who'd given her recommendations. She barely acknowledged the worry and inconvenience she'd caused. By dessert, she'd completely shifted the narrative. She had done us a favor by discovering these local gems. After lunch, I found Mom in her room, looking more tired than she had that morning. Are you feeling okay? I asked, instantly concerned. Just a bit run down from all the excitement, she assured me. But I saw she was checking her blood sugar again. The reading was higher than ideal, likely from the day's stress. Let me get you some water and your medication, I offered. As I helped Mom with her pills, a wave of protective anger washed over me. This vacation was supposed to help Mom relax, not add stress that affected her health. That evening, I stayed close to Mom, monitoring her condition. Her blood sugar stabilized, but the incident left me on high alert. From the kitchen, I could hear Chloe on the deck, talking and laughing on her phone, presumably with her new friends. The sound grated on my nerves, and I chopped vegetables with perhaps more force than necessary. Dad joined me. "Harper," he began awkwardly, "I know today didn't go as planned, but try not to be too hard on your sister. She's young and enjoying her vacation." "She's 33, Dad," I replied quietly, keeping my voice low so it wouldn't carry. "That's not young when it comes to basic responsibility and consideration. Mom could have had a serious issue today." Dad sighed. "I know, and I've spoken to her about it. But you know how she is. The more we push, the more she pushes back. Let's just try to salvage the rest of the vacation, okay?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak further without saying something I might regret. But as I continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that a line had been crossed, and worse was yet to come. The fourth day dawned overcast, humid, hinting at thunderstorms. The weather mirrored my mood, heavy with unresolved tension. Still, I was determined to make the most of it for Mom's sake. I planned a picnic at a nearby cove, easy for Mom to walk to, scenic enough to feel special. By 9 a.m., I was in the kitchen, preparing picnic foods, whole grain sandwiches, fresh fruit, homemade bean salad, all mindful of Mom's diet. I packed her medications, extra water, a first aid kit. Yesterday's experience cemented my caution. Dad emerged around 9:30, kissing Mom as she followed him into the kitchen. "Something smells great," he commented. "Picnic lunch," I explained. "Easy walk for Mom, shaded tables." Mom smiled. "Sounds lovely, Harper. What can I do?" I gave her sandwiches to wrap while I finished the salads. Dad volunteered to find plates and utensils. Still no sign of Chloe. After yesterday, I didn't count on her. But Mom gently knocked on her door around 10:15. "Chloe, honey, we're planning a picnic. Would you like to join?" To my surprise, Chloe's door opened almost immediately. She was dressed, checking her phone. "A picnic? Sure, I could do that. What time?" Mom looked pleased. "Around 11 o'clock. "Perfect," Chloe replied, her attention half on her phone. "That gives me time to finish these work emails." A flicker of hope. Maybe today would be smoother. Perhaps Chloe had reflected. By 10:45, all preparations were done. At 11:05, Chloe emerged. "Ready," she announced cheerfully, then glanced at her phone. "Oh, by the way, I hope it's okay, but I invited a couple of people to join us. They're bringing some local craft beer Dad might like." My hope for a peaceful family day evaporated. "You invited strangers to our family picnic? Without asking anyone?" Chloe rolled her eyes. "They're not strangers. They're the guys I met, Caleb and Finn and Caleb's sister Zoe. They're locals. They know all the best spots." Dad, predictably, seemed unbothered. "The more the merrier, right? And craft beer sounds great." Mom looked less certain, but nodded. "Of course, it's fine. I'll just grab a few more plates." I bit my tongue, recalculating the food. It would stretch barely. More concerning was Chloe's unilateral decision again. We set out. I carried the heavy cooler. Dad managed the basket and chairs. Mom walked slowly but steadily. Chloe strolled alongside, chatting about local attractions her new friends had recommended. The picnic area was lovely. Grassy clearing, sturdy tables, shade, and a spectacular view of a quiet cove where the water was so clear you could see fish. I set up our spot. Dad helped Mom get comfortable. Chloe checked her phone. "They should be here any minute. They're coming by boat." She pointed to a small pier. Sure enough, a sleek motorboat approached, carrying 3 people, 2 men, 1 woman, all late 20s/early 30s. They waved enthusiastically. Introductions were made. Caleb, tall, sun-bleached hair. Finn, muscular, tattooed. Zoe, Caleb's sister, with a short, fashionable haircut. "So great to meet Chloe's family," Caleb said, shaking Dad's hand. "She's told us all about you." Finn held up a 6-pack of beer. "Local brewery. Best IPA in Maine." Dad looked delighted, immediately engaging Finn in conversation. Mom seemed to enjoy Zoe's company, though I noticed she ate less, possibly self-conscious about her dietary restrictions. Chloe hovered, pleased with herself. I busied myself with the food, trying to rearrange it. I overheard snippets. Caleb, a seasonal fishing guide. Finn, vacation properties manager. Zoe, graphic designer. The picnic started pleasantly. The beer was excellent, according to Dad, who was soon deep in fishing conversation. Mom seemed to relax with Zoe. Trouble began 20 minutes in, when Caleb, watching Mom decline certain foods, asked bluntly, "Are you on some kind of special diet?" Chloe mentioned something about health issues. Mom looked uncomfortable. "Just managing diabetes," she said quietly. "Nothing to worry about." "My uncle had diabetes," Caleb continued, oblivious. "Lost a foot to it eventually. Nasty disease." Mom's face paled. I intervened quickly. "We manage it very carefully. Mom's doing great with her treatment plan." But Caleb wasn't finished. "You should try this natural supplement my uncle took. Really helped his blood sugar. I can get you some while you're here. My buddy sells it." "That's very kind," Mom replied diplomatically, "but I prefer to stick with my doctor's recommendations." Caleb shrugged. "Suit yourself, but these pharmaceutical companies just want to keep you sick. Natural stuff works better." A surge of protective anger. This stranger giving dangerous medical advice to my mother. Before I could respond, Chloe jumped in. "Caleb owns a health food store in town," she explained, as if that qualified him. "He knows a lot about alternative treatments." The conversation shifted as Finn produced a flask of homemade moonshine. Dad accepted a plastic cup. So did Chloe and Zoe. Mom and I politely declined. As the afternoon wore on, the dynamic grew uncomfortable. Caleb, Finn, and Zoe consumed most of the beer and moonshine, growing louder, more overbearing. Chloe matched their drinking, giggling at their jokes, seeming to forget we were there. "Tell them about that time you stole your dad's car in high school, Mel," Finn encouraged, using a nickname I'd never heard. Chloe launched into a story I'd never heard about taking Dad's car without permission at 16, going to a party. She told it like a hilarious adventure, not dangerous, illegal behavior. Dad looked uncomfortable. "I don't remember that happening," he said. "Oh, you never knew," Chloe laughed. "I got the car back before you woke up. Mom caught me, but she never told you." Mom frowned. "Chloe, that's not remember how you made me promise never to do it again, and we kept it our little secret?" Chloe continued, cutting Mom off. "You were always covering for me." I watched Mom's face, seeing the hurt and confusion. This story was clearly fabricated. Chloe was rewriting our family history to impress her new friends. The final straw, Finn and Caleb began tossing a frisbee nearby, growing reckless with alcohol. A wild throw from Finn crashed onto our table, knocking over drinks, scattering food. "Sorry about that," Finn called, not sounding sorry at all. Neither he nor Caleb moved to help. As I scrambled to salvage what I could, I noticed Mom looking pale and tired. I discreetly checked her blood sugar, lower than it should be. She needed to eat something substantial now. "Mom, are you feeling okay?" I asked quietly. She nodded, but admitted, "I'm a bit tired, and I should probably eat something more substantial than these snacks." I turned to the group. "I think we should head back to the cabin. Mom needs to rest." Chloe frowned. "We just got here. It's barely been 2 hours." "Your mom's not looking great," Zoe commented, more observant than her brother and friend. "Maybe you should take her back." Caleb waved dismissively. "She's fine. Just give her one of those granola bars." The casual dismissal of Mom's health by the stranger was the last straw. I stood up, my voice firm. "We're going back now. Mom needs proper food and rest." Chloe looked embarrassed. "Harper, stop being so dramatic." "Mom, are you really not feeling well, or is Harper overreacting as usual?" Mom, never one for conflict, hesitated. "I am a bit tired," she admitted. "But you can stay if you want, Chloe. Dad can help me back." "Actually," I said, looking pointedly at the mess, "I think we should all go. The picnic is pretty much ruined anyway." Chloe glared at me, but before she could respond, Finn interrupted. "Hey, no worries. Why don't we all head back to your cabin? We can bring the boat around to your dock. Got plenty more beer on board." Alarm bells screamed in my head. The last thing Mom needed was 3 intoxicated strangers invading our cabin. That's not necessary, I said firmly. We have plans for the evening. No, we don't. Chloe contradicted. That's a great idea, Finn. You guys can come see our awesome cabin and hang out on the deck. Dad looked torn, glancing between Mom's tired face and Chloe's excited one. To my surprise, he sided with me. I think today isn't the best day for more company. Your mother needs to rest. Chloe's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Fine, but I'm staying with my friends. I'll catch a ride with them. The walk back was tense and silent. Dad supported Mom, who moved slower than usual. I carried our picnic supplies, leaving nothing behind, despite Finn's assurance they'd clean it up later. Once back, I immediately prepared a proper meal for Mom and ensured she took her medication. While Dad helped Mom settle for a rest, I cleaned up the remaining picnic supplies, my frustration building with every sticky container and crumpled napkin. We'd planned a simple family picnic, and Chloe had turned it into a chaotic social event with strangers who disrespected Mom's health. Around 6 p.m., I heard a boat approaching our dock. Looking out, I saw the same motorboat, now carrying Chloe, Caleb, Finn, and Zoe. They were laughing loudly, clearly more intoxicated than at the picnic. Dad came to stand beside me at the window. Looks like Chloe brought her friends back anyway, he observed, his tone unreadable. Dad, Mom needs quiet to rest. These people were disrespectful about her health, and they're clearly drunk. We can't have them here. Dad sighed. Let me talk to Chloe. He went out to the dock. I watched. I saw him speaking to Chloe, who responded with animated gestures. After a minute, Dad turned to Caleb, who shrugged. Then, to my dismay, Dad seemed to relent, gesturing towards the cabin. Minutes later, the whole group trooped onto our deck, Chloe leading the way with a triumphant expression. Dad followed, looking resigned. Finn carried more beer. Caleb had a portable speaker already blaring music. Mom's trying to rest, I said as they entered, keeping my voice level with effort. We'll keep it down, Chloe promised, though the volume of her voice belied her words. We're just going to hang out on the deck. You don't have to join us if you're going to be a buzzkill. The next hour was excruciating. From the kitchen, where I prepared a light dinner, I heard increasing volume from the deck, music, laughter, conversation. Mom emerged from the bedroom, looking troubled by the noise, but unwilling to complain. When Zoe came inside to use the bathroom, she paused by the kitchen. Your sister is something else, she commented. She told us you guys are loaded, said your dad owns some big company back home. I stared at her in confusion. That's not true. My dad is a high school science teacher. Zoe looked surprised. Oh, she said you guys own multiple vacation homes and were thinking of buying property up here. The realization that Chloe was lying to impress these people added another layer to my frustration. When Zoe rejoined the group outside, I heard Finn's voice carry through the open deck door. So, when are you going to cook that fancy dinner you promised us, Mel? I'm starving. Chloe's reply was clearly audible. Harper will make something for everyone. She loves playing house mother. It's her whole personality. That was when I reached my breaking point. I walked onto the deck where the four of them were lounging with drinks, Dad sitting uncomfortably at the edge. Chloe, I said, my voice tight with controlled anger. Can I speak with you inside, please? She rolled her eyes dramatically for her friend's benefit. Whatever it is, just say it here, Finn, she drawled. I'm not cooking dinner for your friends. In fact, I think they should leave. Mom isn't feeling well. Their noise is disturbing her rest, and frankly, they've been disrespectful since they arrived. Caleb sat up straighter. Whoa, that's harsh. We're just having a good time. At our family cabin, during our family vacation, while my mother, who has health issues, is trying to rest, I pointed out. Chloe invited you without consulting anyone, and you've overstayed your welcome. Chloe jumped to her feet. You don't get to decide who's welcome here. This is Dad's cabin rental, not yours. Dad cleared his throat. Actually, Harper has a point. It is getting late, and your mother needs quiet. Chloe's face flushed with anger. You're taking her side? After I finally made some friends who could show us the best parts of this place. Finn stood up, swaying slightly. No worries. We can tell when we're not wanted. Come on, Mel. Grab your stuff. You can crash at my place tonight. That suggestion created an entirely new problem. Chloe, you are not going to a stranger's house to crash after drinking all day, I said firmly. I'm 33 years old. You don't get to tell me what to do. Chloe shouted, loud enough that I was certain Mom could hear. Dad finally took a stand. Chloe, you're staying here tonight. Your friends need to leave. What followed was an ugly scene. Chloe alternated between arguing and pleading, while her friends gathered their things with obvious annoyance. Caleb muttered something about uptight family as he collected his speaker. Finn tried to convince Chloe to leave with them one more time, but Dad physically stepped between them, his teacher's authority finally making an appearance. After they departed, Chloe stormed to her room and slammed the door. Dad slumped into a deck chair, looking exhausted. I went inside to check on Mom, finding her sitting at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry about all that, I said, sitting beside her and taking her hand. This isn't how I imagined our family vacation, she said softly. I just wanted us all to spend time together and enjoy each other's company. As I comforted Mom, the weight of the past 4 days settled heavily on me. The pattern was clear. Chloe would prioritize her own desires. Dad would enable her until pushed to the absolute limit. Mom and I would be expected to accommodate and forgive without complaint. But for the first time, I was questioning whether I wanted to participate in this dynamic any longer. The morning of our 5th day dawned gray and drizzly, the weather matching the mood inside the cabin. Mom and Dad were having coffee at the kitchen table when I emerged. Their conversation stopped abruptly. Chloe's door remained firmly closed. Good morning, I said, pouring myself coffee and joining them. How are you feeling today, Mom? Better after a full night's rest, she replied, a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The strain of yesterday was visible in her slumped shoulders. Dad cleared his throat. I was thinking we could drive to that lighthouse today, the one in the guidebook. The rain's supposed to clear by noon. I nodded, appreciating his attempt to salvage something. That sounds nice. Views are spectacular, and they have a small museum. The tentative peace shattered when Chloe finally emerged around 10 a.m., looking hungover but defiant. She poured coffee, leaning against the counter rather than joining us. Morning, she said flatly. What's the plan for today? Dad explained the lighthouse idea, his tone carefully neutral. Chloe listened, then said, Actually, I made other plans. Caleb and Finn are picking me up at noon. They're taking me to this hidden beach only locals know about. The same people who had been asked to leave just last night were now expected back. I exchanged a glance with Dad, who looked troubled but hesitant to create more conflict. Chloe, Mom began gently, we'd really like to do something as a family today. We've barely spent any time all together on this trip. We've been together plenty, Chloe countered. I'm allowed to have some fun on my vacation too, you know. Of course you are, Dad said, placatingly. But after yesterday what? Chloe interrupted. After Harper was rude to my friends and embarrassed me? After you kicked them out like they were criminals instead of people just trying to show us a good time. Dad's placating approach clearly wasn't working. So I decided to be direct. After they disrespected Mom's health needs, drank excessively on our property, and left us to clean up their mess, I said. Those people aren't friends, Chloe. You met them 3 days ago. Chloe rolled her eyes. Here we go again with Saint Harper, the guardian of all things proper and responsible. Some of us actually know how to have fun and make connections with new people. This isn't about fun, I replied, struggling to keep my voice level. It's about respect for the family and consideration for Mom's needs. We came here for a family vacation, and you've spent most of it avoiding us or bringing strangers into our space. Oh, please, Chloe scoffed. Mom is fine. You're just being controlling as usual. Dad intervened. Let's all calm down. Chloe, we would really appreciate it if you join us for the lighthouse today. Your friends can wait until tomorrow. Chloe hesitated, possibly because the request came from Dad. For a moment, I thought she might agree. Then her phone chimed with a text. She checked it, and her expression hardened. They're already on their way. I can't cancel now. Yes, you can, I said. You can text them back and explain that you're spending the day with your family. I don't want to. Chloe shot back. I want to go to this beach with people who are actually fun to be around. Mom's soft voice cut through the tension. Chloe, honey, I've been looking forward to the lighthouse. I thought we could take some family photos there. The hurt in her voice was unmistakable. For a brief moment, Chloe looked conflicted. Then she squared her shoulders. I'm sorry, Mom, but I already committed to this. They're bringing a picnic and everything. I'll do the lighthouse thing with you another day. There won't be another day, I pointed out. We're leaving in 2 days, and tomorrow is supposed to be stormy. Well, that's not my fault, is it? Chloe retorted. Maybe you should have planned better. The unfairness of that statement, when I had done all the planning, was the final straw. Years of built-up resentment and frustration broke through my usual restraint. I did plan, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts. I planned this entire vacation while you did nothing. I researched activities that would work for Mom's health needs. I packed her medications and monitored her condition. I made restaurant reservations and scheduled tours. I even packed special foods she can eat safely. Chloe looked taken aback by my outburst, but quickly recovered. Nobody asked you to do all that. You just like controlling everything. No, I countered, years of unspoken thoughts finally finding voice. I do it because someone has to be responsible. And it's never going to be you, is it? Not when you were 16 and Dad had to pick you up from parties where you were drunk. Not when you were 22 and Mom and Dad had to pay off your credit card debt. And not now at 33, when you can't even be bothered to show up on time for family activities. Harper, Dad warned, but I was beyond stopping. Do you have any idea what Mom's been through this year with her health? Do you know how scared she was when she was hospitalized in March? Of course you don't, because you sent flowers instead of visiting, then called for 5 minutes before you had to rush to a party. Chloe's face flushed. That's not fair. I live in Boston. I can't just drop everything every time Mom has a health issue. I live an hour further away than you do. I pointed out. But I managed to be there. I always manage to be there because that's what family does. So I'm not family now? Chloe's voice had taken on a dangerous edge. You're family when it's convenient for you, I replied. When you need money, or a place to stay, or someone to listen to your latest drama. But when the family needs you, when Mom needs you, you're nowhere to be found. Chloe turned to her parents, tears welling in her eyes, tears I recognized as her go-to tactic when confronted with uncomfortable truths. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? Dad looked deeply uncomfortable. Harper, that's enough. Your sister, no, it's not enough. I interrupted, something I rarely did with my father. For years, we've all tiptoed around Chloe's feelings while ignoring everyone else's. We make excuses for her selfishness. We clean up her messes. We rearrange our lives to accommodate her whims. And what has it gotten us? A family vacation where Mom's health is jeopardized, Dad's stressed, and I'm treated like a servant expected to cook and clean for Chloe's random friends. Mom's quiet voice broke through my tirade. Harper, please. I'm sorry, Mom, but it needs to be said, I continued, gentler now. I love all of you, but this dynamic isn't healthy for anyone. Chloe needs to hear that her actions affect others, especially you. Chloe's tears had turned to rage. You think you're so perfect, don't you? The responsible daughter, the good one. Well, guess what? Everyone is sick of your controlling, judgmental attitude. You don't get to dictate how I live my life or spend my vacation. No, I don't, I agreed. But when your choices directly impact Mom's health and well-being, that's where I draw the line. Mom is fine, Chloe shouted. Stop using her health as an excuse to control everything. At that, Mom herself stood up. I am not fine, she said with unusual firmness. I haven't been fine for months. My blood sugar has been all over the place. I'm constantly tired, and I worry about every food I put in my mouth. This vacation was supposed to be a chance for me to relax and enjoy my family, but instead, I've been stressed and anxious since we arrived. Chloe stared at Mom, utterly speechless. Dad placed a hand on Mom's shoulder, but she gently shrugged it off. Eleanor, he began, using her name in that special way reserved for serious moments. No, Arthur, Mom said. I need to say this. I love both my daughters equally. But Harper is right about one thing. This vacation has become all about managing Chloe's needs and moods rather than enjoying our time together. Chloe's face crumpled. So, you're taking her side? After everything I've done to make this vacation fun. What exactly have you done? I asked incredulously. Name one thing you've contributed to this vacation besides stress and drama. I've found this place. Chloe shot back. This was my idea. Finding a cabin online and then doing absolutely nothing to make it happen doesn't count as a contribution, I retorted. Dad paid for it. I booked it. Researched activities. Packed supplies. You ruined it. Chloe shouted. You've turned what should have been a fun family vacation into a military operation with your schedules and rules and judgment. You've made everyone miserable with your controlling behavior. Dad finally found his voice. Chloe, that's enough. Harper has worked very hard to make this vacation pleasant for everyone, especially your mother. If anyone has ruined things, it's he cut himself off, but the implication was clear. Chloe gasped, genuinely shocked to hear her father come so close to blaming her. I can't believe this, she said, her voice suddenly small. My entire family is turned against me. No one is turned against you, I said wearily. We just want you to grow up and think about someone besides yourself for once. The sound of a boat motor approaching our dock broke the tense silence. Chloe's phone chimed with a text message. That's Caleb and Finn, she said, her voice cold. I'm going with them. Don't wait up. Chloe, please. Mom called as she headed for the door. Stay and talk this through. There's nothing to talk about, Chloe replied without turning around. Harper has made her feelings clear, and apparently you all agree with her. I know when I'm not wanted. With that dramatic exit, she stormed out. Through the window, I could see her hurrying down to the dock where the now familiar motorboat was waiting. Caleb waved enthusiastically, unaware of the family drama he was intersecting. After Chloe departed, the cabin fell into a heavy silence. Mom sank back into her chair, utterly drained. Dad paced the living room, running his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration I'd rarely seen from him. I'll make some fresh coffee, I said, needing something practical to do. As I measured the grounds, Dad came to stand in the kitchen doorway. Did you mean what you said about leaving tomorrow? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without my voice breaking. I'm sorry, Harper, he said, the words coming out haltingly, as if he wasn't accustomed to saying them to me. I didn't realize how much pressure you've been under. It's not just this vacation, I replied, keeping my eyes on the coffee maker. It's been our family dynamic for as long as I can. Remember. I just reached my breaking point. Mom joined us, her eyes red-rimmed, but dry now. I should have seen it, she said softly. I've leaned on you so much, especially since my diagnosis. It wasn't fair. I don't mind helping, Mom, I assured her. I love you and I want to support you. What I mind is that it's always assumed I'll handle everything while Chloe gets a free pass to do whatever she wants. Mom reached for my hand. I never meant to make you feel taken for granted. I know you didn't, I said, squeezing her hand. But that's what happened, and I need some space to figure out what comes next. The lighthouse trip was quietly abandoned as the three of us spent the afternoon in a strange, subdued state. I prepared a simple dinner, which we ate mostly in silence. The absence of Chloe's usual chatter and drama felt oddly conspicuous, like a missing tooth your tongue keeps finding. As I was cleaning up, Dad approached me hesitantly. Are you sure about leaving tomorrow? I nodded. I need to, for me. What should I tell Chloe? The question irritated me. Still worried about Chloe's feelings, even now. But I kept my tone neutral. Tell her the truth, that I needed some space after our argument. Dad nodded, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I've made a lot of mistakes with you girls, he admitted. I thought I was being a good father by keeping the peace. But I was really just enabling bad patterns. The acknowledgement, however late, meant something. It's not too late to change those patterns, Dad. That night, I packed methodically, leaving out only what I'd need in the morning. As I folded clothes, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. The decision to leave early was painful but necessary, a declaration of my own worth and needs that had been a long time coming. I went to bed early but lay awake for hours, listening to the lake, wondering if I was doing the right thing. Around midnight, I heard the distant sound of a boat motor. Chloe returning, presumably. No voices or door slams, just the quiet click of her bedroom door closing. Morning came with pale sunlight. I dressed quickly, carried my bags to the car, then joined my parents for a final breakfast. Chloe's door remained closed. "I made your favorite blueberry pancakes," Mom said, her smile brave, but her eyes sad. "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched. We ate together, making stilted small talk. As I cleared dishes, Chloe's door finally opened. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking subdued. "You're really leaving?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual edge. "Yes," I replied simply. "I think it's for the best." She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "Safe drive." It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't an attack either. Almost conciliatory. The goodbyes were emotional but restrained. Mom hugged me tightly, whispering, "Call me when you arrive safely." Dad's embrace was awkward but heartfelt. Chloe hung back, offering only a stiff nod. As I drove away, watching the cabin recede in my rearview mirror, I felt a strange sense of both loss and liberation. For the first time in my adult life, I had chosen my own needs over family expectations. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to travel on my own terms. The small inn I found 30 miles from our family cabin was nothing special. A standard roadside establishment, clean rooms, a view of pine trees rather than the lake. But it offered something I desperately needed: space to think. After checking in, I sat on the edge of the bed and let the emotions I'd been controlling wash over me. Tears came hot and fast, a release of tension, grief for the vacation that should have been, for the relationship with my sister I'd never truly had, for the years of feeling invisible despite always being needed. When the waves subsided, I took a long shower, ordered a pizza, and spent the evening watching mindless television. The simplicity was healing. No schedule, no one's needs to anticipate, no tension to navigate. I called Mom as promised. The conversation was brief but gentle, both of us carefully avoiding mention of Chloe or the argument. "Get some rest," Mom said before hanging up. "You deserve it." The next day, I slept later than I had in years, waking naturally around 9:30 a.m. without an alarm. After a leisurely breakfast, I spent the morning catching up on work emails. It wasn't exactly a vacation activity, but it felt productive and normal in a way the cabin experience hadn't. In the afternoon, I drove to a nearby state park and hiked alone, setting my own pace, without worrying about accommodating anyone. The solitude was refreshing, not lonely. As I stood on a small overlook, watching a hawk circle lazily in the clear blue sky, I realized how rarely I experienced this kind of unstructured freedom, the ability to go where I wanted, when I wanted, answering only to myself. That evening, my phone rang. Mom's number. I answered immediately, a reflexive spike of worry cutting through my newfound peace. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Yes and no," Mom replied, her voice strained. "I had a bit of a blood sugar issue this afternoon. Nothing too serious, but I was pretty shaky for a while." Concern flooded me. "What happened? Did you take your medication? Where was Dad? Is there a doctor nearby you can see?" "Harper, breathe," Mom said gently. "I'm fine now." My blood sugar dropped suddenly, probably from the stress of everything, to be honest. "Your father helped me get some juice and crackers, and I stabilized. I wanted to hear your voice." The admission touched me deeply. "I'm glad you called. How are things otherwise?" Mom sighed. "Quiet. Your father took the boat out fishing. Chloe has been gone most of the day with those friends of hers." My jaw tightened. "Even after what happened? After your health scare?" "She doesn't know about it," Mom admitted. "She left before it happened, and we haven't seen her since." The old anger flared, but I tamped it down. "Mom, maybe you should come join me at this inn. It's not fancy, but it's comfortable, and I could take care of you properly." There was a pause before Mom responded. "That's very sweet, but I think I need to stay and see this through with your sister. Running away won't solve the underlying issues." Her words, though not intended as such, felt like a gentle rebuke of my own decision to leave. "I didn't run away," I said, more defensively than I intended. I removed myself from a toxic situation. Of course you did, honey, Mom said quickly. And you were right to do it. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. We talked a while longer, Mom filling me in on Dad's fishing success and the family of loons they'd spotted. By the time we hung up, I felt both better for having talked to her and unsettled by the news of her health episode. The next morning, I woke early and found myself packing my bags without having consciously made the decision to return. Something in Mom's voice the night before had triggered my protective instincts. Despite my determination to prioritize my own needs, I couldn't ignore the possibility that Mom might need me. I checked out of the inn and pointed my car back toward the lake, telling myself I was just going to check on Mom and could always leave again if the situation remained unchanged. The drive felt shorter this time. As I pulled into the cabin's gravel driveway, I was surprised to see only Dad's SUV present. Chloe's rental car was nowhere in sight. I parked and sat for a moment, gathering my thoughts. Dad answered my knock, surprise evident on his face. "Harper, we weren't expecting you back." "I was worried about Mom after her blood sugar incident," I explained. "Is she okay?" Dad stepped back to let me in. "She's better today. The doctor said it was likely a combination of stress and missing a meal." I stopped in the doorway. "Doctor? You took her to a doctor?" Dad nodded. "I insisted after she nearly fainted yesterday. There's a medical center in town, the same one you researched before we came. They were very helpful." The fact that Dad had taken charge and followed through was unexpected, but heartening. "Where is she now?" "Resting in the bedroom." Dad hesitated, then added, "She'll be happy to see you." I carried my bag inside and went directly to the master bedroom. Mom was propped against pillows reading. Her face brightened. "Harper, what a wonderful surprise." I sat on the edge of the bed and took her hand. "I was worried after your call." "How are you feeling?" "Much better," she assured me. "Your father has been very attentive, and the doctor was wonderful." She adjusted my medication slightly, which seems to be helping. I glanced around. "Where's Chloe?" Mom's expression clouded slightly. "She didn't come home last night. She texted your father this morning to say she was staying with her friend Zoe." The information didn't surprise me, but it still stung to know Chloe had essentially abandoned the family in the middle of a health crisis. "Has she asked about you at all?" I thought, but didn't say. Instead, I asked, "Have you eaten lunch yet?" "I can make you something." "Your father brought me soup a little while ago," Mom said, then added with a small smile, "It was from a can, but he heated it perfectly." The image of my father, who rarely ventured into cooking, carefully preparing canned soup for my mother, brought an unexpected lump to my throat. Perhaps my departure had forced some necessary changes already. I spent the afternoon keeping Mom company, catching her up on my brief solo adventure and listening to her stories about Dad's fishing exploits. She seemed genuinely more relaxed than she had been earlier in the vacation. "I had a good talk with your father after you left," she confided when Dad stepped out to buy more ice. I told him some hard truths about how I felt, enabling Chloe all these years. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was necessary. "How did he take it?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Better than I expected," Mom admitted. "I think seeing you stand up for yourself shocked him into reconsidering some things. He admitted he's been unfair to you and far too permissive with Chloe." The acknowledgement was validating, even secondhand. "Do you think anything will actually change?" Mom squeezed my hand. "Change doesn't happen overnight, especially with patterns as old as these. But I believe we've taken the first steps." Early evening brought the sound of a car in the driveway. Looking out, I saw Chloe's rental. She entered alone, stopping short when she saw me sitting with Mom. "You're back," she said, her tone unreadable. "Mom had a health scare yesterday," I replied, not bothering to soften the information. "Her blood sugar dropped dangerously low. Dad had to take her to a doctor." Chloe paled visibly. "What? Why didn't anyone call me? Would you have answered?" I asked. "Or were you too busy with your new friends to care about your family?" "Harper," Mom warned gently. Chloe's expression cycled rapidly through shock, guilt, and defensiveness. "I would have come back if I'd known," she insisted. "Is she okay?" "Are you okay, Mom?" "I'm fine now," Mom assured her. "Just tired." The doctor adjusted my medication. Chloe approached hesitantly and perched on the arm of the couch near Mom. I'm sorry I wasn't here. The apology seemed genuine, which caught me off guard. I had expected more defensiveness, more deflection. Mom patted Chloe's hand. You're here now. Dad returned with ice and groceries, pausing when he saw Chloe, but offering a neutral greeting. The four of us existed in an awkward truce for the remainder of the evening. Everyone careful with their words, the recent conflicts hovering unspoken. After dinner, which I prepared while Dad insisted on handling the dishes, Chloe approached me on the deck where I'd gone for fresh air. I didn't know Mom was sick, she said without preamble. I would have come back. I believe you, I replied, surprising myself with the realization that I did. Chloe could be selfish and thoughtless, but she loved Mom in her own way. Chloe leaned against the railing, looking out at the lake. I've been thinking about what you said. About me never taking responsibility, always expecting everyone to accommodate me. I stayed silent, giving her space. I'm not good at being reliable, she admitted. Not like you. It's easier to be the fun one, the spontaneous one. No one expects anything from me except entertainment. That's not entirely true, I said. Mom and Dad expect you to be an adult who considers others, especially when it comes to Mom's health. And I expect you to be a sister who sees me as a person with needs, not just a convenient resource to handle whatever you don't want to deal with. Chloe nodded slowly. I can see how I've been taking advantage. Not intentionally, but the result is the same. She turned to face me. I can't promise I'll suddenly become as responsible as you overnight, but I am sorry for how I've treated you, especially on this trip. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was more self-awareness than Chloe had ever demonstrated. Thank you for saying that. So, where do we go from here? She asked. One day at a time, I replied. Starting with finishing this vacation with as little drama as possible, for Mom's sake. The final 2 days of our family vacation passed in a state of cautious reconciliation. Chloe actually joined us for meals and activities, though she did slip away once. To say goodbye to her friends. More significantly, she made an effort to help with Mom, offering to get her medications or asking if she needed anything. Dad, too, showed subtle but meaningful changes. He consulted me about activities suitable for Mom rather than automatically deferring to Chloe. He stepped up with practical tasks without being asked. And most importantly, he began to hold Chloe accountable, giving her a pointed look when she was late for breakfast on our final day. On the morning of our departure, as we packed the cars, Mom pulled me aside. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For having the courage to speak your truth, even when it was painful. Sometimes a family needs a disruption to see the patterns they're trapped in. I hugged her tightly. I'm sorry I left you. Don't be, she insisted. That act of self-respect did more to change things than years of silent accommodation ever could. The drive home was split between the two cars, Dad and Mom in the SUV, Chloe and I in her rental. The arrangement, suggested by Dad, forced Chloe and me to spend hours in close quarters, navigating conversation without the buffer of our parents. It was awkward at first, but gradually we found our way to more honest communication than we'd had in years. Chloe admitted feeling jealous of my closeness with Mom, especially since her health issues began. I confessed to resenting her freedom and the way she seemed exempt from family responsibilities. I've always admired how together you are, Chloe said at one point, surprising me. You make adulting look effortless. I laughed. Trust me, it's not. I'm constantly worried I'm doing it wrong. You worried about doing something wrong, she mused. I thought that was my department. The shared laughter felt like the beginning of something new. Not a complete resolution, but a crack in the wall that had grown between us. Back home, the changes that began at the lake continued to unfold. 3 months later, we gathered for family dinner. Mom's health had stabilized, and she looked better than she had in months. The most remarkable change was in our family dynamic. Dad consulted me about important decisions. Mom was more forthright about her needs. And Chloe, while still Chloe in many ways, made visible efforts to be more considerate, calling Mom regularly, even remembering Dad's birthday without a reminder. As for me, I discovered that speaking up for myself didn't cause the family to fall apart, as I had feared. If anything, it strengthened us by replacing unhealthy patterns with more honest communication. I began setting clearer boundaries around my time and energy, and to my surprise, my family largely respected them. The vacation that I thought had been ruined turned out to be transformative in ways I never expected. By standing up for myself, even when it meant being cast as the villain temporarily, I had initiated necessary changes that benefited everyone. The pain and conflict had been worth it for the healthier family dynamic that emerged. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to love yourself enough to demand respect. That setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential for authentic relationships. And most importantly, that it's never too late to change family patterns that no longer serve anyone well. Our main vacation wasn't the idyllic experience I had planned, but it gave us something more valuable, a new understanding of each other, and the courage to create healthier ways of being family. In the end, that was worth more than any perfect vacation could have been. Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with your family, even if it made you the temporary bad guy? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Let's talk about it.